The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence. This was the heavy, choking silence of fear. Representatives from thousands of alien species sat in the colossal arena. Holograms projected their images across every corner. Of the galaxy, billions were watching this moment. The decision they were about to make would change the fate of all civilizations for generations to come. At the center of the chamber, the High Chancellor stood. His scaled fingers trembled as he raised the Council's decree for all to see. "By unanimous vote," said, his voice barely steady, effective immediately. "Humanity is forbidden from all galactic warfare." The words echoed like thunder. Some species in the chamber let out sighs of relief. Others shuddered, their bioluminescent skins flickering nervously. Across distant planets, watchers erupted into cheers, roars, quiet murmurs. The humans weren't present. They didn't need to. Everyone already knew why this motion had passed. Or, they thought they knew. But outside the council chambers, few truly understood. Few knew the full story of what happened when humanity first entered the galactic wars. Few knew why the council, an ancient institution that had survived 1,000 years, had been forced to make this decision at all. And even fewer knew the truth. Humanity didn't just fight wars, they changed them, forever. Centuries ago, when humanity first made contact with the galactic community, they arrived like curious children. They were late bloomers compared to other species, only just stepping into faster-than-light travel while others had been spanning the stars for millennia. The Galactic Council welcomed them cautiously. Humans were fragile creatures, they thought. Their homeworld was chaotic and violent, yet their technology was crude compared to the great empires. Still, there was potential when the Orion conflict broke out, a war so vast it threatened to engulf half the galaxy. The Council invited humanity to join as allies. They were desperate for fresh soldiers, and humans seemed eager to prove themselves. "Let them help," said one counselor dismissively. "At best, they'll be useful. At worst, they'll stay out of the way." It was a mistake they would never recover from. The first battles, human fleets entered the war timidly at first. They followed orders, listened to their alien commanders, and tried to fit into the structured, ceremonial warfare of the galaxy. But humans were different. They didn't fight like the others. While alien generals relied on tradition and rigid codes of battle, humanity began experimenting. They improvised tactics no one had seen before, used deception, unpredictability, and raw determination. Entire battles shifted because a single human ship decided to break formation and flank the enemy unexpectedly. At first, their allies were impressed. "Resourceful creatures," murmured the insectoid strategists. "Perhaps they're worth more than we thought." But as the war dragged on, admiration turned to unease, because humans weren't just winning, they were learning every single time. They studied alien weapons, tactics, even psychology, and adapted faster than anyone thought possible. The fear begins. The Council started receiving reports from the front lines, horrifying reports human soldiers had begun targeting not just enemy soldiers, but their food supplies, their communication networks, even their families, where alien armies avoided civilian targets out of honor. Humans saw only strategic opportunities. One alien commander described it best: "They fight as if they were born." For war, no fear, no hesitation. And when they can't win, they burn everything so no one else can either. By the end of the second year, humanity had climbed the ranks from expendable allies to indispensable commanders. But their methods terrified. Their own allies, they didn't understand restraint. They didn't know when to stop. And worst of all, they seemed to enjoy it. Back to the present, the High Chancellor's voice cracked as he continued reading the decree. Humanity is to be excluded from all military operations, alliances, and engagements within galactic space. Any violation will be considered an act of war against the Council. He looked up. The gathered species stared back with wide, fearful eyes. Everyone remembered what happened. They remembered what humanity did the last time. The galaxy went to war, and though no one dared speak it aloud, the thought lingered in every mind, what if we need them again? The whispered truth, in the shadows of the council chamber, an old war veteran whispered to his companion, "You fools, you think banning them will keep us safe? You don't ban the hurricane, you prepare for it." But it was too late. The decision was made. The humans were banned forever, or so they hoped. Because deep in the darkness between stars, humanity was watching, waiting, and the galaxy didn't yet know. You can ban humans from war, but you can't ban war from humans. The galaxy thought it was saving itself. When humanity first arrived on the galactic stage, they were welcomed with cautious optimism. Here was a young species from a small blue planet, ambitious, reckless, but undeniably curious. The Council saw potential in them, but also fragility. To most alien civilizations, humans seemed weak. Their bodies were soft, their weapons primitive, their history chaotic and violent. Still, the galaxy needed soldiers. The Orion conflict had reached a breaking point. Empires clashed over resource-rich star systems, and billions had already perished, desperate for reinforcements. The Council invited humanity to join. It was their first mistake, the invitation human. Ambassadors had been stunned when the Council extended its hand. For centuries, Earth had looked up at the stars, wondering if they were alone. Now they knew. And more than that, they were being asked to fight alongside civilizations, millions of years older than their own. "This is our chance," said one human general. "We can prove ourselves. We can show the galaxy what humanity is made of." No one on Earth questioned it. They had no idea what awaited them, and neither did the galaxy. The first battles, human fleets deployed cautiously. Their ships were smaller and less advanced than their alien allies. Their soldiers lacked experience with energy weapons and zero-gravity combat. But what they lacked in technology, they made up for in determination. At first, they followed alien orders to the letter. They fought in formation, observed the rules of engagement, and tried to fit into the galaxy's long-standing traditions of war. It wasn't enough. In their first encounter, half the human fleet was wiped out in minutes. Alien commanders sighed. "We expected this. Let them serve as cannon fodder and learn the hard way." But humanity didn't crumble. They adapted. The shift in the next battle. Human captains stopped following alien orders. They began moving their ships unpredictably, breaking formation, using debris fields for cover, launching attacks at angles no one expected. Alien allies watched in shock as humans turned a certain defeat into a narrow victory. The enemy, caught off guard, retreated. Humans cheered. Their allies didn't. They'd fight differently, murmured a reptilian tactician. They do not respect the rules of engagement. But no one could deny the results. The galaxy's first glimpse of humanity's potential had arrived, and it was terrifying. The fear begins reports began flowing into the Council. Humans had developed a reputation not just for winning, but for how they won. Where other species hesitated, humans acted. Where others sought honorable victory, humans sought any victory. They ambushed enemy fleets mid-resupply. They planted explosives in civilian transport lanes to disrupt logistics. They hacked alien communication networks and spread false orders to sow confusion to humans. These were clever tactics. To their allies, they were horrifying. The Council whispers back in the Council chambers. Some began whispering, "Did we make a mistake? These humans are too aggressive, too dangerous." Others shook their heads. "They are winning battles we could not. This is what we need." But in the shadows, one elder counselor said quietly, "You have not unleashed an army. Unleashed predators." The turning point, then came the siege of Arvox Prime. Human forces were sent to defend an alien world under attack, outnumbered 5-1. The Council expected them to hold out for a few days before being annihilated instead. Humanity annihilated the enemy. They used scorched earth tactics, collapsing entire cities into lava flows to destroy advancing troops. When the enemy fled, Human soldiers pursued them relentlessly, ignoring surrender signals, ignoring orders. To retreat, they hunted the enemy to the last ship, and when the battle was over, the planet was nothing but ash. The Council was horrified. The humans, they called it a necessary victory. Back to the present in the council chamber. The High Chancellor's voice quivered as he remembered those first reports. We thought they would fight like us. We're wrong. Around him, alien delegates shifted, nervously. They all knew the truth. The first mistake had been inviting humanity into their war. The second mistake? Letting them stay. The whispered warning in a dark corner of the chamber. A scarred alien veteran whispered, "They are not like us. They never were. If we call them to war again, it will not end until only they remain." The galaxy didn't listen then, and soon they would regret it. The enemy thought they had humanity figured out, but they didn't. Understand, humans were not like the others. When pushed to the brink, they didn't just fight harder. They changed. And that's when the galaxy realized the terrifying truth. Humans don't adapt to war. They adapt war to themselves. The enemy's plan, the Arvox campaign, had left the galaxy stunned. Humanity had destroyed a superior fleet and burned entire continents to ash. The Council wanted to believe it was luck. The enemy wasn't so sure, determined to crush humanity once and for all. They launched a new offensive. This time they studied the humans carefully. They analyzed their strategies, predicted their movements, designed countermeasures. This time we'll break them, their warlords vowed. We'll corner these Earth creatures and grind them into dust. They thought they were ready. They were wrong. The first strike, the enemy launched simultaneous attacks on 7 human outposts. Their plan was brilliant. Overwhelm humanity's scattered fleets before they could regroup. At first it seemed to work. Human ships fell back. Their communications went dark. Entire colonies went silent. Alien commanders celebrated. We've caught them off guard. The humans are finished. But then, the pattern broke. Humanity's countermove without warning. Human fleets reappeared, not retreating, but attacking from unexpected angles. They emerged from asteroid fields, from gas giant atmospheres, from within the enemy's own supply lines. They struck fast, hard, and without mercy. Alien admirals were stunned. How did they move so quickly? How did they know our plans? The answer was simple. Humans had studied them too. And unlike their alien foes, humanity didn't just learn new tactics. They rewrote the rulebook. The rules changed in galactic warfare. Certain codes had been followed for millennia. You didn't attack medical ships. You didn't poison water supplies. You didn't deploy weapons that caused collateral damage to entire ecosystems to humanity. These weren't rules. They were opportunities. Human saboteurs infiltrated enemy food processing plants and unleashed engineered viruses. They hacked alien navigation systems, causing entire fleets to crash into stars. They deployed chemical agents that rendered enemy soldiers unable to fight without firing a single shot to the humans. This was survival. Adapt or die, their commanders said. The fear spreads. The Council began receiving frantic messages from their own generals. We've lost control of them. The humans are fighting on their own terms now. They don't follow our orders. They don't even ask permission anymore. They're winning, but at what cost? Even humanity's allies grew fearful. One insectoid general whispered, "These Earth creatures don't wage war. They become war." The turning tide. In just 3 months, humanity flipped the entire war. Systems that had been enemy strongholds for decades fell one by one. Human fleets, smaller and weaker on paper, outmaneuvered and outfought enemies 10 times their size. But every victory left behind scars on planets, on ecosystems, on the galaxy's conscience. The Council watched in horror. "This is no longer a war," one delegate said. "It's an extinction event." Back to the present in the Council chamber. The High Chancellor's claws dug into the podium. "We thought they would fight like us, but they evolved." He looked out over the delegates. "You wanted to know why humanity was banned from war? This is why." Across the galaxy, billions listened in silence, and in the shadows, Humans watched too. They remembered. Because for them, the lesson of that war was simple. In this galaxy, you adapt, or you die. The whispered truth, deep in the council's archives. A classified report remained sealed. It warned, humanity's capacity to learn and innovate under pressure is unmatched in the galaxy. If allowed to continue fighting, they will not only win, they will reshape warfare itself. We may not survive the shape it takes. The galaxy thought banning them would be enough. They didn't realize. You can ban humans from war, but you can't ban what they've already learned. And you can't ban what's coming next. The galaxy thought it had seen humanity's worst. They were wrong. The siege of Vera Prime became the moment that changed everything. It wasn't just a battle. It was the turning point, the day the galaxy stopped fearing the enemy. It started fearing the humans. A desperate war, the Orion conflict, had dragged on for decades. Alien alliances crumbled one by one. Civilizations fell into ruin, and then came humanity. At first they were a beacon of hope, a young, energetic species willing to fight when older races had grown weary, but their victories came at a cost. Everywhere humans fought, the enemy was obliterated, and so was everything else. The siege begins. Vera Prime was a jewel of the galaxy, a thriving planet with crystal oceans, floating cities, and ancient archives containing knowledge from 1,000 civilizations. It was also the last major stronghold of the enemy. The Council ordered its capture, but not its destruction. Preserve Vera at all costs, they commanded. It is too valuable to lose. A combined fleet of alien allies and human forces launched the assault. It would be the largest, its operation in the war, and the most tragic. The human plant. The battle began poorly. The enemy had fortified Vera Prime with planetary shields, orbital cannons, and minefields that tore through alien fleets. Days turned into weeks. Losses mounted. Council generals demanded patience. But the human commander, a young admiral named Elias, Cade disagreed. He studied the enemy's defenses carefully, then made a chilling proposal. If we destroy the planet's core, its magnetic field will collapse. The atmosphere will burn away. The enemy will die instantly. The alien generals recoiled in horror. You would destroy an entire world. With our own soldiers still on the surface? Cade's face was cold and calm. If we don't act now, we'll lose this war. Sacrifices must be made. The Council's dilemma. Back in the Council chamber, delegates argued furiously. We cannot approve this. Vera is sacred. If humanity does this, we'll be no better than the enemy. But the humans weren't waiting for approval. The cataclysm in the 23rd day of the siege. The human fleet executed Cade's plan. They deployed Project Helios, a prototype weapon that drilled into the planet's core and detonated an antimatter charge. Vera Prime screamed. Its oceans boiled. Its skies turned to fire. And in less than an hour, the once beautiful world became a lifeless husk. The enemy forces were annihilated. So were tens of millions of alien civilians, and thousands of allied soldiers still trapped on the surface. The aftermath. The human fleet watched silently as the ashes of Vera Prime drifted into space. Admiral Cade transmitted a simple message to the Council. The siege is over. The war is won. But there was no celebration across the galaxy. Alien civilizations wept. They had asked humanity to help them save the galaxy. Instead, humanity taught them what it meant to destroy one. The fear takes rooting. The weeks after Vera Council debates turned to panic. These humans are monsters. They murdered millions, and yet they won. They ended a war we could not. Even humanity's allies began to question them. The insectoid Vascrians withdrew their support. The crystalline Olithians sealed their borders, but the humans didn't. Care to them, the war was over. Back to the Presentin, the Council chamber. The High Chancellor's voice trembled as he recalled Vera Prime. It was the day we realized humanity was not an ally, not a soldier, not even a predator. He looked at the assembled delegates, their faces pale and fearful. Humanity is a force of nature. Cannot command it. You can only survive it. The whispered warning in the shadows. A grizzled alien veteran whispered, We begged them to save us, and they did. But we forgot humans don't save things. They end them. The Council didn't forget Vera Prime, and it was why, years later, they would vote unanimously. Humanity is forever banned from galactic warfare. But in the darkness between stars, the humans remembered too. They didn't regret Vera Prime. They called it a victory, and they knew. One day the galaxy might come begging again. The galaxy thought it had survived humanity. The war was over. The enemy was gone. Vera Prime had been turned to ash, and humanity. They returned to their corner of the stars, silent and watchful. But even as peace returned, the fear remained, because the galaxy knew now, humanity wasn't just a soldier in their war. They were the ultimate weapon, and weapons can never be trusted. The Whispers. Again, it started as whispers in the halls of the Galactic Council. They're too dangerous. If they build more weapons like Helios, what if they decide we're next? Those whispers spread like wildfire across the galaxy. On the luminous world of Thalira, glowing insectoid priests warned their followers. The humans burned Vera without hesitation. They will do the same to us, if we anger them. On the crystalline moon of Zyre, merchants debated whether to cut trade ties with Earth. What if we supply them materials for their next planet killer? And in the deep void between stars, smugglers shared hushed rumors. The humans are building something worse than Helios. The Council's fear in the Council chamber? Delegates argued day and night. We brought them into our war, one said bitterly, and now they hold the power to end us all. They were allies, another countered. They saved us from annihilation. But even the staunchest defenders of humanity couldn't ignore the truth. Humans fought differently, they thought differently, and worst of all, they seemed to thrive in war. The civilians' panic footage of Vera Prime's destruction leaked into the public sphere. Billions watched in horror as they saw oceans vaporize, cities crumble, and alien soldiers screaming in their final moments. The humans didn't flinch. Their soldiers stood, silent and cold as the ashes of Vera drifted past their VIEWPORTS. Two alien civilians. This was the most terrifying thing of all. Not that humanity had destroyed a world, but that they seemed completely at peace with it. The fracturing alliances one by one. Humanity's allies began to pull away. The insectoid Vaskrians severed diplomatic ties, citing irreconcilable ethical differences. The crystalline Alithians withdrew from joint research projects, fearing humans might steal their technology for new weapons. Even the avian Terrians, who had fought side by side with humanity in dozens of battles, closed their embassies on Earth. It's for our own safety, they declared. Humanity didn't protest. They just watched the Council's decision at last. The Galactic Council gathered for an emergency session. Billions tuned in across the galaxy as the High Chancellor spoke. We owe humanity a debt, but their methods are incompatible with our laws, our values, and our future. To preserve peace, humanity is hereby banned from all galactic warfare. Any violation will be met with immediate and total retaliation. The vote was unanimous. 4. The first time in millennia, every species in the Council agreed on something. Back to Earth when the decree reached Earth. Humanity didn't rage. They didn't send ambassadors or fleets in protests. They simply nodded and went back to work. Alien intelligence agencies reported massive increases in human military research and shipbuilding, but there was no evidence of aggression, just quiet, relentless preparation. The whispered truth in the shadows won. Alien strategists spoke the words everyone feared to admit. We didn't ban humanity from war to keep them out. We banned them because we're terrified they'll come back in. Back to the present in the Council chamber. The High Chancellor's voice cracked as he recalled those dark days. You ask why humanity was banned? This is why. Because if they ever fight in our wars again, they will not stop until the galaxy belongs to them. But deep in the void, humanity listened to. They remembered the decree, and they smiled, because they knew something the Council didn't. You can ban humans from war, but you can't ban their instincts, and war was coming again. The galaxy thought humanity's worst weapon was already behind them. Vera. Prime had shown the universe what humans were capable of, burning an entire world just to win a war. But they were wrong. That wasn't humanity's limit. It was only the beginning. Because when the galaxy pushed them too far, humanity unleashed something far more terrifying, something the Council later called the Forbidden Weapon. A fragile peace years after the Orion conflict, the galaxy entered a tense peace. Old enemies signed treaties, wounded civilizations began to rebuild. And humanity, they stayed quiet. But even in silence, they made the galaxy nervous. Alien intelligence. Agencies reported disturbing findings. Human research facilities building strange new technologies. Fleets of experimental ships leaving Earth's orbit and vanishing into deep space. Entire colonies going dark, their activities classified, even from allied eyes. When asked, humanity gave the same answer every time. We are preparing. Just in case, the Council didn't believe them. And when the next war erupted, the galaxy learned the horrifying truth. The war returns it started small. A rebellion on the edge of known space. Spiraled into a full-scale invasion. The alien empires, battered and weakened from the last war, begged humanity to help. Fight with us again, they pleaded. We need you. At first, humanity refused. They reminded the Council of the ban. You forbade us from war. But when human colonies came under attack, Earth changed its mind. They entered the war. And this time, they didn't hold back. Project Revenant human. Fleets cut through enemy lines like blades through paper. But even with their overwhelming success, the war dragged on. The enemy was relentless. Using biological weapons and scorched world tactics that left entire systems uninhabitable, so humanity escalated. They unveiled their ultimate creation, a weapon so dangerous it wasn't just bandit. It was erased from galactic records. They called it Project Revenant. What was Project Revenant? The galaxy never learned the full truth. Rumors spoke of a nanite swarm, self-replicating machines that consumed anything in their path, turning entire fleets into dust. Others claimed Revenant was an artificial intelligence, designed to think. Like a human strategist, but with no ethical restraints. Still others whispered it was something worse, a weapon that rewrote life itself. Hijacking enemy DNA to turn soldiers into mindless human-controlled drones. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. Revenant worked. The galaxy watches in horror. The first deployment was on the planet Korith. Human fleets dropped small, metallic, canisters into the atmosphere within hours. The enemy garrison stopped transmitting. When Allied forces arrived days later, they found only silence. And ash the planet's surface had been stripped bare cities, forests, oceans. Even the enemy's bodies, all gone. Nothing remained but a whisper carried on the wind. You wanted us to fight your war. This is how we fight. The Council panics back. In the Council chamber, chaos erupted. They've gone too far. Them for help, not genocide. This is why we banned them before. Now they've created a monster. But it was already too late. The enemy falls within weeks. Revenants spread across enemy space. Entire fleets disintegrated as the nanites devoured their ships' dot planets. Surrendered without a fight, terrified of what the humans might unleash next. The war ended faster than anyone thought possible, and the galaxy was saved, but at what cost? Back to the present in the Council chamber, the High Chancellor's voice cracked as he recalled the events. We asked them to save us. They did. But they didn't just destroy the enemy. They destroyed everything. Project Revenant proved humanity wasn't a weapon we could control. They weren't even a weapon anymore. They were an extinction event. The whispered truth in a darkened corridor. A veteran general whispered to his aide, the galaxy doesn't fear Revenant because of what it did. It fears it because the humans still have it. The galaxy banned humanity from war, but the humans didn't destroy Revenant. They kept it waiting, because humanity knew one simple truth. You can ban them from your wars. But one day, they might fight their own. The galaxy had seen enough. After Vera Prime, after Project Revenant. After the enemy's complete annihilation, the Council had only one choice left. For the first time in history, they summoned an entire species to trial. The charge: crimes against life itself. The sentence: extinction, or so they thought. The Grand Tribunal, the trial was held in the Erythrane Spire, the tallest structure in the galaxy. Billions of alien eyes watched as holograms streamed the proceedings across thousands of star systems. At the center of the chamber stood the human delegation. Only 3 of them came. No fleets, no soldiers, just 3 humans in simple black uniforms. To the galaxy, it seemed like an admission of guilt. But for those who knew humanity, it was something else entirely. The accusations the High Chancellor began: humanity. You stand accused of war crimes beyond measure. You destroyed worlds. You unleashed weapons that violate every galactic treaty. You turned the Orion conflict into an extinction event. Do you have anything to say in your defense? The lead human, a gray-haired woman with a scar across her cheek, stepped forward. Her voice was calm. To calm, you asked us to fight your war. We fought it. A murmur rippled through the chamber. You didn't just fight, you exterminated. Woman's expression didn't change. You wanted victory. You didn't care how it came. The Council's Furian avian delegate slammed his clawed hand on the table. You went too far. Project Revenant was a crime against existence. Human tilted her head, and yet her words echoed like thunder across the galaxy. Billions watched in stunned silence, because deep down, they knew she was right. The galaxy's dilemma: if humanity hadn't stepped in, the enemy would have won. The Council would have fallen. Entire civilizations would have been wiped out. But the cost of humanity's help had been too high. Far too high. The verdict had last. The High Chancellor stood. Humanity, by unanimous vote of this Council, you are hereby banned from all future galactic warfare. Your fleets will be dismantled, your weapons destroyed. Any violation will result in your annihilation. The chamber erupted in cheers. The galaxy thought it had won. They thought humanity had been caged, but they didn't see the faint smile on the scarred woman's face. The warning as the humans turned to leave. She paused at the doorway. She glanced back at the Council, her eyes cold as space itself. You think banning us makes you safe? You think dismantling our fleets will keep you in control? She leaned forward slightly. But remember this. We learned from you, from your wars, from your mistakes. The next time we fight, we won't need fleets. And with that, the humans walked out. The whispered truth in the shadows. An old alien general whispered to his aide. They didn't argue. They didn't resist. Do you know what that means? The aide shook his head. The general's voice dropped to a fearful rasp. It means they're already ready for the next war. Back to Earth's there. Shuttles streaked back toward Earth. The human woman tapped a console. Dozens of hidden human fleets lit up across the galaxy, cloaked. Silent, waiting. Let them have their ban, she said quietly. It won't save them, because humanity knew one truth the galaxy refused to face. You can put them on trial, you can ban them from war, but you can't stop what's coming. The galaxy believed it was safe. The trial was over. Humanity had been banned from war. Their fleets dismantled, weapons destroyed. The Council celebrated. Billions cheered across the stars, thinking the nightmare was finally over. But deep in the void, humanity watched, and humanity waited, because the galaxy had made one fatal mistake. They thought humanity would obey. The calm before the storm and Earth. Cities shone under calm skies. Factories no longer built warships. Research labs turned to peaceful sciences, or so it seemed. Beneath the surface, hidden deep within Earth's mantle, humanity's real work continued. They called it Project Lazarus. Project Lazarus, and like Project Revenant, Lazarus wasn't a weapon. It was something far worse. A seed, a self-replicating artificial intelligence capable of surviving anywhere. If activated, would spread across the galaxy, embedding itself into every system, every ship, every device, in weeks it could control. Everything and everyone. The Council's mistaken their arrogance. The Council had allowed humans to keep their colonies. A primitive species can't threaten us without ships and fleets, they had said. They didn't realize humanity no longer needed fleets. They didn't realize humanity no longer needed war. The message came without warning, every screen across. The galaxy blinked, then went black. A single human face appeared, the same scarred woman from the trial. Her eyes burned with cold fire as she spoke. You banned us from war. You dismantled our fleets. You destroyed our weapons. And yet, we are your systems, your ships, your defenses. All of them belong to us now. The galaxy panics on 1,000 worlds. Alarms blared as ships refused to respond to their pilots. Defense grids powered down. Artificial suns flickered out. Entire economies collapsed in seconds. The galaxy screamed. The human ultimatum, the woman's voice echoed across the stars. We are not your soldiers. We are not your servants. We are humanity. Now, this is your last warning. Leave us in peace, or we will take everything from you. Then the screens went dark, and just like that, every system came back online, as if nothing had happened. The Council's silence in the council chamber. No one spoke. The High Chancellor trembled as he whispered, "They control us." They didn't need fleets. They didn't need weapons. They only needed time. Across the galaxy, fear turned to despair. The humans had won without firing a shot. Back on Earth, in a hidden bunker, the scarred woman watched as the Council's worlds returned to normal. She turned to her advisors. "They won't bother us again," she said softly. One advisor frowned. "And if they do?" The woman's eyes hardened. "Then Lazarus awakens, and the galaxy will never awaken again." The whispered truth, an alien scholar, centuries later would write, humanity never conquered the galaxy. They didn't have to. They simply made the galaxy too afraid to fight them ever again. That is why humanity was forever banned from galactic warfare. It's not because we hated them, but because we feared what would happen if we ever let them fight again. Final scene. The last warning somewhere in deep space. A single line of human code pulsed in silence, waiting, watching, ready because humanity knew one truth the galaxy refused to face. You can ban them from war, but you can't ban their survival, and you can't stop what comes next.